Every team, every topic, everywhere. This is Believe.
Welcome in, everybody. Ethan here.
What's up? Mike here.
And welcome to the Blue Note Podcast, your one-stop shop for all things St. Louis Blues. It's episode number 34.
Jake the Snake Allen. 7 years in St. Louis he spent. 7 years. 289 games. He was 148, 94, and 26. He was, statistically speaking, this guy, he was a lot better than what fans give him credit for. A .913 save percentage here over the course of his time in St. Louis and a 2.50 goals against average. He had 21 shutouts in St. Louis. 0.546 quality starts. I like him, it'll be a little bit better here than that. But, he did a good job. I really think he did a good job here in St. Louis, and fans, if you lose two in a row, fans are ready to be able to cut your head off here sometimes. So I don't think that they give him nearly as much credit as what he deserved. But I did love the fans' response when Jake came in and he played here for Montreal just the other night. The love that they continue to pour out here for the former Blues players is just tremendous. But yeah, episode 34, Jake the Snake.
Yeah, I don't think there was really another option in terms of who you go with. I think you look at 20.
Low.
Well, fair.
Read low.
2015-16 and 2016-17, he was just really, really good. 59, 35, and 8, a 917 save percentage, 239 goals against. A couple off years after that, and then the shortened season it was shortened technically because of the suspension of the season. 2019-20. When he was the backup to Binnington and the Blues were a good team until they went into the bubble. 927 save percentage and 21 starts. So ended well here. In terms of his career in Montreal, they had a good team that miraculously made it to the Cup final in his first year. And the last 2 years have been disastrous, but he's pretty much their starter given what's happened to Carey Price. And So, I think he's better than his numbers are there because he had a 330 goals against and a 905 last season, and he only has a 900 this season. I think he's better than that. The numbers would I think the fact that Montreal is not a good team would be the biggest reason why his numbers aren't as good. So, shout out to Jake Allen, one of the winningest goaltenders in franchise history, 148 wins. So it was a good run. Got a cup here. Obviously wasn't the starter for that, but he did play in that disastrous game 3.
He played a key role, though, doing a great job. If you remember here, during the practices, he would emulate the opposing goaltenders' styles and tactics. Yeah. So whatever tendencies that they had, he would do his best to actually replicate that here in practice so that the players actually got a chance to play and practice against, the opposing goaltender.
Yeah, a very well-liked player when he was in St. Louis as well. So shout out to Jake Allen. Well liked by his teammates, I should say. I know the fans were kind of off and on with him.
Right.
But shout out to Jake Allen. Before we get into it, thank you to the listeners for listening to the podcast and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss a single show. Give us a review if you love what we're doing. Get involved with the conversation over on Twitter at TBNPod. And I need to tweet on that account a little bit more than I do probably, especially during games. So I'll try to improve that this week. And you can follow my account on Twitter at Ethan Carter SW. You can follow Mike on Twitter at
M_Meyer3.
All right, let's get into it. I suppose we'll start with Doug Armstrong's press conference. I think that's the right place to start.
Yeah, we haven't really had the chance to get in here to it too terribly much. Especially after the disastrous time frame. They had a little bit of time here before the game here against the New York Islanders. It went to 5-game losing streak. Practice hit. Armstrong and Stillman were at the practice. Never a good sign. When the boss and the boss's boss and the boss's boss's boss are all there, never a good thing. Yeah. Never a good thing.
Yeah, it's just their response to Armstrong going out there, and with his actual quotes, he did say that he still thinks this team can do it, or at least turn it around. But you also felt like a little bit of, I don't really know from him. So he kind of put himself on the line a little bit in terms of backing this team and believing in Berube and his system, and they just dump all over him by getting destroyed by the Islanders. So I feel like that says a lot about this team, and it's not, none of it's good.
Yeah, and I don't know. Destroyed is a little bit.
Yeah, I
I don't know. I don't know if destroyed necessarily. Like, yeah,
the
they had a
second period they were
they had
destroyed.
they had a bad second period, and especially, I mean, even looking further, they had a bad 10 minutes.
Yeah.
So, which is something that they have been trending with here all season long. So, yeah, I mean, I totally agree with that. The first period looked good.
I
Let's
yeah,
let's rewind the tape here a little bit. Rewind the tape because we want to be able to start here at the press conference.
yeah.
So we were talking here just beforehand, and we didn't want to be able to get into it too much here because I want to be able to record authentic responses here to this. Armstrong comes in, watches practice, makes his comments about a 30-minute press conference. 30 minutes. So, do you think that it was early in the season to be starting to make these comments, or do you think that he felt the pressure that he absolutely needed to say something?
Um, I think the timing was probably fine. I mean, they'd lost 5 in a row at that point, and
Mm-hmm.
you, as he alluded to, like right at the beginning, I think you're probably tired of hearing from the players and the coach saying the same type of stuff or saying
Mm-hmm.
the same thing. So I think it's a good thing that he got out ahead of it. And I think a big part of it is the fact that the team is wildly underperforming. And it's a team that he
Mm-hmm.
put together. And it's a team that he should probably start to get some criticism for how he's built the team. And I don't think that
Mm-hmm.
that's happened enough. And I think it's going to happen. And I don't think it was too early just because, like, when you have a losing streak like that, and you look at the NHL trends and the fact that if you're not in a good spot like 3 weeks from now, you're probably done. And I think
Right.
everybody knows that the 2019 team was probably a one-off. I can't say that for certainty, but it certainly,
I don't think that that's going to really ever happen in NHL
yeah,
history ever again. Like,
I
let's be
wouldn't think
real.
so. No. And there is enough parity in the league now and enough balance to where it, like, maybe, but like a less than 1% chance that that
Right.
would ever happen again. But I don't think
Right.
it was too early for him to come out.
Yeah. Comparing at least, some of the other GMs, comparing, I mean, even just in St. Louis, I don't even think that if something like that happened with the Cardinals, I don't think you see Mozeliak come out and
No.
make statements here like this. Now, he could, because he does a lot more TV spots or radio spots than like what Armstrong here does typically. So maybe that would have just come out just like through a different kind of conference and conversation. But yeah, it was definitely telling that he came out and had this discussion. And I think it was important too, because you needed to see and have the conversation to understand that he fully believes and is backing his coach. Because I know a lot of people were wondering, oh, dang, what does this mean here for Berube? But you have to remember here too, he just signed a contract extension. He just did. And I think he's in like what, year one here of that extension? Because there's a 3 year. So Berube's not going anywhere. And I know that he had the conversation with the players that, look, it is time to buckle up. Because if we don't get this thing in gear, somebody's going bye-bye. And it's potentially multiple players. And then he did mention the word rebuild. And I don't think that the players, and we have discussed this here before, that I don't think that the players want it. I mean, obviously nobody wants to really go through a rebuild. I don't think the Blues have any choice. At least,
And
at least just
yeah.
not completely dismantling the car, but I think that they need to at least stop it, put it in park, change the tires, do quick oil change, something, and go again. It doesn't need a full blown just blow it up and start from scrap, because that's going to be a long wait if that's the case, because they do not have the prospect depth to do that. So I think if you just do a small retool, that's what we may be seeing. And I think that's what Armstrong was alluding to with, we've got the players, but what he was saying, I think potentially between the lines, is we've also got the players to make some changes. Now, the biggest kicker with that is a number of the players that need to be moved and that they could be used to be moved all have no trade clauses. And then the players that we want to be able to move that isn't going to really garner a whole heck of a lot of attention, Marco Scandella, he has a no trade clause also. So he's stuck between a rock and a hard place. But this is also the grave that he dug himself. He gave out no trade clauses like they were candy. He gave out 4-year, 5-year, 6-year extensions here like they absolutely needed to. And for some of these players, it was well-deserved. Braden Chen absolutely deserved the contract extension that he was given. It may not age well. May not.
I don't know if
Marco
a retool
Scandella.
is possible. I don't know if a retool is possible because this defensive unit has literally like no tradable. Like, I don't see how you trade anybody on the defensive unit, right, in the defensive unit right now without having to give something up in return for a guy like Scandella. Like, Parayko, nobody wants that. I mean, maybe you could trick somebody into taking it, but also I don't think Armstrong wants to trade him because I think Armstrong, for some reason, views Parayko as still being a top 4 or a top 2 guy, which he's not.
Yeah.
And Leddy, disappointing. I'm not surprised Leddy hasn't looked good.
A number of players have been disappointing. Like, let's be
pretty
real.
much everybody.
The whole team. Yes. Yeah.
With the exception of like Tarasenko, I would say probably.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
I mean,
Krug, I mean, you probably can't trade that contract. Falk, probably not either. Just
I don't think you're going to move Falk.
I don't think
I don't see how you move Falk. I don't see how you move him.
Yeah, I wouldn't think so. But I don't think you can really do anything in between competing and rebuilding. I think you have to do one or the other because a retool would indicate that they would actually like have the cap space to do things. And I don't think they're going to have that for a little bit. I mean, maybe in the off season with you're getting what, like 17 or 18 million off the books with a couple guys going. Even that is not that much to work with, especially when there's like some serious flaws with this group. And it doesn't make any sense because they were just so good last season in terms of being able to score at will. And that's just all gone. And I know that their shooting percentages last season were suspiciously high and it probably wasn't repeatable, but just to be this bad is startling. Armstrong is just, some of the moves that he's made have just been really, really, really tough. And I'm not even talking about like letting guys go like Perron or Husso, who both look great for the Red Wings. And that's unfortunate to see, but I don't really see. I mean, I think choosing to extend Leddy, which didn't at the time even really like improve the defensive unit. Like if you have Rosen and Mikkola with Krug on your left side, is that much worse than Leddy being there? Because I don't think it is.
The big thing I think for him was that there was that veteran experience that came in and he was able to help balance out that top 4. That was truly the only thing, was that he helped balance it out. He added just another veteran leg to it. But the thing that I was worried about was when they brought him in was, oh no, here's the Scandella effect all over again.
Yeah.
Because do you remember how much fans loved Marco Scandella when he came in? They're like, holy crap, this dude's going to be amazing for us. Then he got signed for multi-year contract. And then what the hell happened?
That's the thing. Armstrong should have learned his lesson from that Scandella deal. I'm not saying that Leddy is worse than Scandella, but man, he doesn't really do much. He really doesn't. Right. I mean, he can skate and that's about it. I mean, I just don't understand. Like, this defensive unit
he's good in transition. He's good in transition, but that's not worth the money that he's paying.
And it doesn't matter that much when the Blues don't even really get out in transition like they did last season.
Right.
Like they're not playing the same way.
Right. Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, to put a bow here on it, I mean, it's early for him to be able to come out and make these comments, but at the same point in time, I think he felt the pressure, like he needed to say something. He needed to say, okay, this is what I'm seeing. This is top line management talking. It's not the coaches. It's not the players. This is me. and I'm going to be accountable for my decisions, and we're going to talk. So I truly respect Armstrong for coming out and be able to make those comments. But yeah, he's got to be able to do something, because I'm looking at the stats here from just last week alone. Now, granted, it was only 2 games, but when you have Tarasenko and Barbashev as the only 2 players to register multi-point weeks, I guess you could say. Tarasenko with 1 goal, 1 assist, Barbashev with 2 assists. And then you had 5 players with 1 point. Torpchenko, Thomas, Achari, Krug, Falk. That's it.
Well,
that's your offense right there.
You know what really stood out to me
7
last
guys.
week? Jordan Kyrou, 2 games, 4 shots, -5, 0 points, 18-23 average time on ice.
Mm-hmm.
It's not getting better for him.
Now,
And I know that there was that article about, locker room stuff with Kyrou and them players not liking his effort or the way he's playing, which I think is BS given the fact the entire team's playing like trash. But, it's very bad for Kyrou to start the season.
Well, and if you look at it, the things that he's trying to do right now that are not working are the things that made him successful last season. It's the shake and bake plays, it's the snipes, it's anything that he's trying to do, it's just not working. And I get it. Like this, all this stuff worked last season. Why is it not working right now? And it's because teams understand, and they made adjustments. They understood that, okay, Kyrou, Thomas, these guys need to be watched. They need to be double teamed. They need to, anything and everything needs to be done to prevent these guys from scoring. And they're doing it. And now it's Kyrou's turn to change his game, to evolve, to do something. Whether or not he just evolves it for like 2 weeks, a month, and then he tries to be able to circle back to what he was doing just to keep their opponents like you're on their feet. I don't know what he needs to be able to do, but holy crap, man. Like he's got to do something, because like you said, -5 here over 2 games it's obviously not good. And I know plus minus is not always the end all be all stat, but when we don't have much to go on other than some of the statistics that they're looking here at, and obviously, the eye test when we're watching the games, obviously Jordan Kyrou does not look like that he belongs in a top 6 position. I'll be real. He looks like a player that belongs down in the AHL. Just going to throw that out there.
Makes you wonder, like, do they have the stones to take him out of the lineup for a game when Saad is back? Like, I don't think they'll do it, but what's going to change? The only argument you make against it is like, okay, Chari needs to be back on the 4th line, take Brown out, take Neighbors out, one of those 2, and then put Saad in there. But
Neighbors is not
terrible.
a guy. Yeah, Neighbors is not a guy that I would be afraid to take out of the lineup. I get it. He's been doing some good things, but boy, it's been tough to watch him sometimes.
Yeah, he looked better with Thomas and Kyrou in that game. He did look better.
And I liked the kid line. And then obviously, Berube had to be able to do something, and he broke it up. I would love to see him go back to the kid line, because they had some really good looks. They had some good looks, some good speed, and I would hope that they would try to do it again.
Yeah.
So that's just me. So speaking of kids, you want to be able to do some prospect talk? It's been a while.
Definitely.
It's been a while. So do we want to start juniors, or do we want to start Springfield?
Let's start with the junior guys.
All right. We each took out 4 players, 4 prospects. So instead of just listening to one of us just rant here over and over and over here about a couple different prospects, let's go every other.
Yep.
Do you want to be able to kick it off here for us?
I'm going to start. I'm actually going to start with Leo Loof here, who is playing I'm not going to even try to pronounce the team name that he's playing for, but it's in the SM Liga in Finland. 6 points in 19 games. He's a +5 for them. Obviously, defenseman, was a middle of the middle round pick in, what was that, 2020? I think he was a 2020 draft. I probably should have wrote that down. He had 10 points in 48 games there last season. He was a +13, so his offensive production is already higher. Third youngest player on the roster. It's not a junior team, so the only guys that are younger than him, there's an 18-year-old and a 19-year-old on there. Solid defenseman, two-way guy. I think once he gets to the AHL, I think you're going to see what he's about. I think he's one of the 4th or 5th best defensive prospects the Blues have right now. They don't have much, so it's not like I'm saying a ton, but I thought he was a pretty good prospect coming out when I did the deep dive stuff on him. So I think that he could be a player.
He's a heavy hitter too.
Yeah.
He's a heavy hitter. I'm excited to be able to see him. I don't think he's got huge, like obviously top 2 potential, but I think he could be easily, a 2nd, 3rd pairing unit.
Yeah, I think he could be kind of like a Mikkola type, maybe a little bit better than that.
Yeah. And I think Mikkola still has the potential to play in a consistent top 4 position. I mean, he's still young. He still hasn't played all that much NHL hockey.
He's a very easy scapegoat for this group. Like, the fact that he got benched for a game is absurd, considering the fact that he's probably been their 2nd best defenseman.
I didn't care for that when they benched him. I get it. I get the styles. I understand why Berube did it.
God forbid they bench Leddy or Parayko, who have pretty much been giving the other team goals all season. But no, let's bench the youngest players. Pretty much what that looked like to me, and it just didn't make any sense. It's like, are you even watching your own team? That's one spot where I would criticize Berube's moves like that.
Yeah. All right, so I went here with Zachary Bolduc. Very, very easy prospect to be able to look here at. He has been performing wonderfully here right now in the juniors. 12 games, 9 goals, 24 points. 24 points. He was the QMJHL, that's the Quebec Major Junior Hockey League Player of the Week here recently. If you have the chance, go back, take a look here at this here on Twitter. The Q, I believe, on their Twitter feed here has it. If not, his team, the Quebec Remparts, they have a feed and a quick little video here of him as well. I really, really wish that this is a player that could have gone to the AHL this season. I understand the rules that, it's 20 years old, or else then he's going back down to the juniors and it's contracts and stuff. I wish that the NHL, each team could petition to the AHL to accept a 1st-round draft pick. Like, you could only have one 1st-round draft pick on there, whatever, like an exceptional status, whatever that it is, just to go up to the next level without being that age. Because Bolduc absolutely has done everything that he can right now in the juniors, and he needs to be playing at a higher level. So he's just going to continue. He's going to play, with guys his age or just slightly younger, and his size, and he's just going to continue to tear it up this year. So don't be surprised if I'm here in a few weeks just saying, oh yeah, he's played 50 games and he's scored 120 points, because that I would not be surprised. So
yeah,
Bolduc
he's definitely too good to be there.
Yeah. It's still going to be, I think, a couple years before Bolduc is in the NHL, because he still has a lot to work on, especially like on his defensive style of the game. But Bolduc is definitely going to be he's going to be a top 6. And I truly got some impressions just by watching him of a new age David Perron. And he's a guy that I really, really wish that could have been mentored here by David Perron, because they have so much history that I truly believe that those two could have done wonders together. So
I agree.
Yeah.
All right. Let me go over to Matthew Kessel, playing in Springfield. 1 goal, 5 points in 10 games, +9 as well. I only had 3 points in 15 games last season, so already an improvement offensively, growing as well. Probably the 1st or 2nd best defensive prospect in the system. I think it's pretty obvious. You look at the way that he's developed the last couple of seasons, definitely better this year already than he has been. last year. A guy that we could see in St. Louis at some point this season. I wouldn't hold my breath for that, but I don't think that it's something that's out of the question. I mean, he's been very solid, and who knows what the Blues defense is going to look like 2 months from now, or who knows what they're going to be looking for. But Kessel is well on his way.
Yeah, he could surprise us. I think that there's a couple of other guys that we could see defensively come up before Kessel, but it would not surprise me. And we'll get into again the Thunderbirds here in just a little bit. But my next guy, Jimmy Snuggerud, old Snuggy Bear. He's playing in his first season here right now in the NCAA with the University of Minnesota. He's actually looking pretty good. Fans who don't remember him, I mean, he was the 2022 first round draft pick at 23 here overall. 6'2" right winger here for the Blues. He's 187 pounds, 8 goals, 12 points in 10 games. Not bad. Not bad.
That'll work.
Yeah, that'll do. So I'll be interested to see how he keeps transitioning. I think he will probably be there for at least 3 seasons. I see the Blues probably taking their time here with Snuggerud. He will be another player that's going to need to impress a lot in camp, truly earn his way because the team is still filled with veterans. So depending on the direction of the Blues, he could earn some time a little bit more, but I don't see the Blues rushing along any of their prospects, regardless of the status of their NHL squad. I've always thought that that's been a horrible reason to rush your prospects up and just get them up to potentially sell tickets or do whatever. You're just hurting your prospects' development. There's no point in rushing guys along. So I think this is a guy that could be in the NCAA for at least another year, potentially 2 more. So I'll keep an eye here, definitely on Snuggerud here as the season goes along, but so far so good here for old Snuggy Bear.
Not bad, not bad. I mean, you look at that Minnesota team he's playing on is loaded. So
always is. Always
yeah,
is.
he's got, interestingly enough, Logan Cooley, who is the 3rd overall pick in this year's draft, only has 9 points in 10 games. So keep an eye on that. And then another higher level pick for the Maple Leafs was Matthew Nyes, whatever the way to pronounce his name. He's got 7 goals in 10 games there, 11 points. But Snuggerud outscoring both, by the way. So not bad. I don't know. I think he'll definitely be there for multiple seasons at Minnesota, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's only 2. I think it kind of depends on where he's at production-wise and where the Blues are in terms of how they want to develop him. But I definitely think it's at least 2.
Yeah. Yeah. It's definitely going to be at least 2. And that's where, that 3rd season is a maybe. And like I said, it depends on the status here, like of the NHL squad and how he also performs here in training camp. Obviously, I mean, it's nothing shocking of like what we're saying here. It just, oh, is he performing? Oh, well, then he's going to make the squad, whatever. Like that's an easy thing to be able to say. But when you look at the status here, like of the team, the same thing with Jake Neighbors. If there's not a spot, then he's just not going to earn a spot. But if there's spots he'll give up, then okay, is he actually earning it? Or do we think it's going to do more benefit to him to actually sending him back down, letting him continue to grow in the NCAA as opposed to just rushing him along?
Yeah. I mean, they did have Perunovich play 3 years there in college as well, and he was dominant the whole time. So it really depends, because you look at when Perunovich was in college, the Blues defense was much, much better than it is right now. So that was obviously a factor how the team was performing at the time. So where do we go next? I suppose I could get into, you want to do Alexandrov? You want me to do the goaltenders at the same time, or how do you want to do that?
Let's, I'll do Alexandrov here real fast. I'm really liking what I'm seeing here out of Alexandrov. He right now is number 4 for the Thunderbirds. 4th overall here in points, 9 games, 4 goals, 4 assists. But he is getting a chance to really dominate and really shine here in their top 6. He, I believe, has been playing here a majority of their top line and really taking his time here, like with the power play. 21 shots here, just really, really shining here. 0.89 points per game. I'm liking what I'm seeing here from him, but he is also doing a great job along here with like Martin Ferk, Matthew Highmore, Nathan Todd here is doing a great job here down in Springfield here as well. But Nikita Alexandrov really did a good job throughout preseason and is really showing that he has taken the steps and the strides with the Springfield Thunderbirds here this season. So after a little bit of an up and down season with the T-Birds last year, only 30 points in 67 games after 6.7 in 7 games during his first season. It's nice to really see him get the opportunity and to shine here so far. So he is truly a player that I would not be surprised to see them call upon should the Blues need more depth, like due to injury. They've got plenty of guys, but I really think Alexandrov is one that they could call up and really shine here, like in a bottom 6 role. I don't think that they could play him just yet, like in a top 6 role, as like even just a filler. But yeah, he's definitely a guy who's really taking the role here with the Thunderbirds and really shining.
Picking up where he left off in the preseason. Definitely good enough to justify if the Blues didn't have the kind of depth that they had going into the season. Definitely a guy that could have got, definitely a guy who could have gotten a look.
Yeah.
So I'm not surprised to see him playing well. And, a lot of the Thunderbirds production players or productive players that you expect to be productive are being productive. What a concept. The players that you expect to produce are producing.
Yeah.
Bizarre.
Yeah. You want to be able to kick it over here to some goaltenders?
Yep, let's take a look. Let me start with Zarenko, who looked pretty good in the summer. I think what he did in the summer, you saw something. Like there might be something. Like even in the prospects camp when the Blues kind of struggled, he wasn't too bad. He's only played 3 games, but he's got a .924 save percentage. They might have something though. 7th round pick in 2019, still only 21 years old. I know that in the mailbag article that we all did for the Hockey Writers, I did say something about their goaltending depth, which I still don't think, I don't view their goaltending depth as something that is just because you have guys that you think could be good means that you have enough depth in your system when it comes to goaltending. Because I'm not somebody who dislikes Hofer, but I don't think the ceiling for Hofer is quite as high as some others might think. That's not to say he couldn't be an NHL starter, but I just don't know how good he can actually be. But that being said, Hofer's had a good season at this point. He's 4-3-0 with a .916 save percentage in Springfield, already better than last season. He wasn't great in the regular season last year, but he was really, really good in the Calder Cup playoffs, at a .936 in 10 games in the playoffs. So he's picked up where he left off there. And when he did start in the NHL a couple times last season, you saw a little something there. Wasn't too bad, but both goaltenders in Springfield have played pretty well. I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that Springfield has a pretty productive team and they play within their system, I think, in comparison to what the Blues are right now currently. But both goaltenders have been well above the expectations for me, at least.
Right. Yeah, they've been doing well. And I don't think, especially like in the terms of Hofer, I don't think that he's going to be like this huge lights out type of goaltender here for the Blues. I think he's going to be very serviceable, and I truly hope that I'm wrong, but I'm with you. I think that he's a player that has a higher floor than I do think that he has a higher ceiling. So I think he's going to be able to win you games. I think he's going to steal you games, but I don't think that he's going to be this end all be all lights out goaltender that's just going to be the face of the franchise for years to come. And that's nothing against Hofer.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that.
Right. It's just, I just don't see it. Zarenko, I don't know enough about him to say one way or the other. Yeah, he's looked great so far, but he's only played 3 games.
Yeah.
I have no idea. I need to be able to take a little bit further of a look here into his games, where the games that he played up against these prospect, up against, his competition, Was that tough competition? Was this top line games? Was it, like I have no idea. No idea. And I honestly, I didn't be able to take a look here a little bit more into him, but as a 7th round guy, he could be a big steal. He could be a very big steal here for the Blues. So we'll have to see. As we've seen here before in the past, it's the lifespan here of a goaltender in St. Louis is only a couple of years before the next man up just knocks you here on your butt and just steals your job. And
happens a lot.
And I think the only person who is not that case was unfortunately Ben Bishop. That's the only guy that the Blues chose to not go with because they had Jake Allen. So they chose Allen here over Bishop. Shout out to the episode man himself. But that's just how it is. So Hofer,
I feel like NHL fans as a whole tend to kind of overrate or view their prospect pool on the goaltending side differently if their numbers are good one year or in one scenario. Like I don't view anybody in this system from a goaltending perspective as a future guaranteed number one, and Hofer's the closest to it. I don't really see Fitzpatrick in the same way or Ellis in the same way that other people do.
No.
I just don't understand it. And in terms of Zarenko, he's a 7th round pick. You don't often get very much out of a 7th round pick. I think the Blues could get something in terms of a good AHL starter or a solid AHL goaltender, and I'd be fine with it. He's a 7th rounder. And even if he gets to the NHL and plays pretty well, great. But Zarenko is just a name that I've heard a lot of this summer with how he played, and you see some flashes there. His numbers in the Finnish non-elite league and the Liga as well weren't great by any means. He's been much better in the AHL to this point than he was anywhere else. So I think that's interesting. I don't know how much of that has to do with the team in front of him and how much of it has to do with him. But the Hofer signs are promising for sure.
Mm-hmm. Nope, I agree. Do you have anybody else that you want to be able to touch on, or do we knock here all 4?
I think we're good. I feel like in terms of the big dogs like Bolduc and Snuggerud, I think we covered them. I do think that maybe we talk a little bit about. I haven't really looked, but I wonder how they'll have Samorukov coming along. I haven't checked his numbers, but obviously it's pretty much a trade where you're like, maybe we'll get something out of him to get rid of Costin, but you never really know. So
right.
I haven't looked at his numbers though.
Well, while you're looking him up here really fast, I want to be able to touch here on Dylan Peterson here. 3rd round pick, 2020, 86 here overall. Big net front presence guy here. Again, 6'4", 192 pounds. He's a beast of a man. Playing at Boston University. He's not a huge point totals guy. So his points just don't jump off the page. 2020, he played 16 games, 6 points. 2021, 29 games, 16 points, 4 points in 7 games this year, all with Boston University. He's a guy that I think can still become a good middle 6 player for you. I don't think he's going to just jump off the page, but when I look at him, his play style, his statistics, he just reminds me, I don't know why. I don't know if this is absolutely the case. He reminds me of David Backes. He just does. And I'm pulling him up here really fast to be able to see. I mean, again, 6'3", 216 pounds here, like was the last time that, they really looked at him. Minnesota, he produced more offensively than what he did, than what Peterson here did. 37 points in 39, 40 and 38, 42 and 38. So he produced a little more offensively here than like what Peterson does. But statistically speaking, stylistically, he just reminds me of David Backes. So maybe we're going to get a Backes light. I'd love it. Everything from what I'm reading about Peterson just jumps off the page as David Backes. So I don't know. Maybe we're going to see, just a little bit more of like an uptick in his production, but just keep an eye here and I'll keep an eye here on David Peterson and see Dylan Peterson here rather, and see what happens here with him.
Yeah, another prospect that I liked a lot coming out. Also, Tanner Dickinson, I believe, is hurt, is another notable one with just tons of speed. I think he's a guy that eventually gets up into the NHL as well. Who knows what his role would be, but in terms of Samorukov, he's played 10 games. He's got 2 points. He's a +4. Solid. I don't know.
Bad.
Yeah, I don't know how the Blues view him. I don't really think he's going to be a point producer like he was in juniors. I think he's more of a defensive guy, maybe two-way in some respects. But, it's just solid. I don't know where he would rank in terms of if the Blues are going to call up a defenseman from the AHL. I think the first option is probably Tucker. But
I think it has to be Tyler Tucker. He surprised me a lot in preseason. Yeah. He looked real good in preseason. And I think if it was not for Perunovich, I think Tyler Tucker would have been the person to stick around.
Yeah.
He's looked real strong.
He's got 7 points in 10 games. He's a +7. So I think it's him. I think you have Kessel as well. And then I think you also have Samorukov. And, Brady Lyle is kind of a name that's been brought up. Hasn't been great start to the season. He's a -4, which plus minus is not that, it's not the end all be all, but seems like a bit of a slow start for him with how he finished last season in the AHL for the Thunderbirds.
He's got a booming of a shot though.
Yep.
Big slapper.
I know another Blues defenseman who's currently on the team that has a big shot that doesn't really do anything with it. So, yeah. But I think Brady Lyle will probably be more effective because I think I would be more effective with a shot from the point. And that's probably not true, but I'll say it anyway.
Yeah.
It's definitely not true. But anyway, we'll see.
All right. I think enough talking about the kids. Anything else you want to be able to add before we look at the week ahead?
I think it's time to brace for impact for the week ahead. It's going to be.
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
Oh, boy. Well, so we're recording this here Sunday night. As you guys know, it's going to be released here tomorrow morning. So depending on when you're listening to this, we will have Boston today, Philly tomorrow. Not the greatest. Could be worse, I guess.
A couple things in their favor, though, I think.
Yeah. Boston's 10-2 with a +21 goal differential. 51-30. Oh, yikes. This team could absolutely just come alive in this game. You're revisiting Jim Montgomery. Torrey Krug's going back to Boston.
He scored there last year. They did win there last year. Now, the Blues were a much better team than last year than they are this year to this point.
And they could be getting Brandon Saad back. That's great. They obviously they just keep saying upper body. By the way, it sounds like that the man had a concussion.
Could be.
That's what it sounds like here to me. Oh, he's feeling better. He's not out this many games because he has, the runs or something, or a belly ache. I think he had a concussion. That's just me.
Could be the case. And you also, Bruins first in the league in goals for. Still without McAvoy. They just lost Forbert, so their defense still not on paper a very strong unit. Not that matters because the Blues probably can't score anyway, but it's not the players' fault that the Bruins have been in kind of a you-know-what storm this last week. But if karma or whatever you want to call it does exist, they would lose this game. I'm just saying. Because organizationally speaking, the people have not been in favor, rightfully so, of what the Bruins have done to themselves from a front office standpoint with their signing and now releasing of a certain player this week. So if that does exist, then maybe the Blues can just sneak in and get a win. And this could be one of those wins where you're like, okay, start to rack them up. But part of me just thinks, I don't think that's going to happen. I really don't, but I hope it does.
No. And the other part of me just thinks that Boston's just going to go out to prove to themselves, like, we're good, we're better. Let's just totally ignore everything that's going on, and we're just going to make a statement, and we're going to come together and just band together here as a team.
That's probably the thing that's going to happen. Yeah.
Yeah. And then they go to Philly. Phillies
Overperforming, certainly.
Yeah. 6-3-2. So we'll see what happens.
You know what the
We'll
Blues
see.
have on their side here? The Flyers don't really score very many goals. They're
Yeah.
they're the only team in the league, or they're right in front of the Blues with goals for. The Blues are 32nd. Now they played less games than pretty much everybody. The Flyers are 31st.
Right.
They have 28 goals for, 28 goals against. But to their credit, I mean, Tortorella's come in, changed it up a little bit. I still don't think they're going to be a very good team at the end of the season, but Carter Hart looks exactly like what everybody thought he would be. He's got a 946 and he's 6-0-2. So
Is there any other game that you could think of that the two opposing coaches, they could square off in a fight and nobody would be shocked that the two coaches fought?
yeah, I think there's like maybe 3 or 4 other scenarios where I could see that happening, but this is definitely one of them. Like, I think certain teams that go up against the Hurricanes, I could see that happening with their coach.
Yeah.
But yeah, it wouldn't shock me at
Rod
all.
the Bod. Yeah.
Yeah. But the Blues should beat the Flyers. Let's be honest. If they play anywhere near like what they should be playing like, which you got to think they're going to play better this week in like every way. You would have to think that with the team with this many veterans, with you could say it's a flawed roster, which I think in certain respects it is. There's still a lot of talent here. Like we can't forget that. This is a team that scored 312 goals last season. There's no way that all just disappears because David Perron is gone. So
Right.
at some point they're going to start scoring more. And
Right.
then it's like, okay, now we don't need Colton Parayko kneeling on his goaltender while the other team scores simultaneously. So I don't know. You got to beat the Flyers. You just have to.
Yeah.
I feel like it's going to be harder than it has to be, though.
It's going to be harder than it looks. Well, then they come back home, right? They come back home and then they play San Jose. Yeah. So they go to Boston, then Philly, then back home, and they play San Jose. The good news is they don't have to worry about Patrick Marleau.
True.
They don't worry about Joe Thornton.
Joe Pavelski.
They don't worry about Joe Pavelski. I mean, they got Timo Meier to be able to worry about.
Erik Karlsson.
Oh, boy.
He's having a huge season. Erik Karlsson has 10 goals in 14 games.
He's having a NHL historical season.
He's having remember I still make $11.5 million season.
Oh, golly. But this last week, they went 0-0-3.
They're terrible.
Despite what they are getting, they were 0-0-3. 12 goals for, 12 goals against, 30% here on the power play, 85.7% here on the PK. They're looking just very average. So if there's a game to especially come back home and win, it's the Sharks. It's the Sharks.
It's the worst team with the exception of Columbus, this is the worst team the Blues have faced this season. So you got to think that they can win this game, especially at home. If they lose to San Jose at home, man, that is a huge issue.
Yeah.
But I think they can do it. I mean, there's no goaltending to worry about. Reimer's been pretty good, but Kokkinen's been terrible. Other than Karlsson.
Which I don't get. Kokkonen came into the league and I had such high expectations for that guy. I thought he was going to be a top 12 or higher goaltender in this league.
Well,
I don't get it.
Minnesota decided that simply let's bring in 48-year-old Marc-Andre Fleury and have him with Cam Talbot and see you later, Kokkonen. And Fleury's turned it around somewhat this season, but either way, Minnesota clearly didn't value him very much, I suppose. But yeah, I mean, other than like Karlsson, Meier, Hurdle, Couture, Sturm's having a good season to start with 5 goals, but come on, I'm not worried about that guy. This is a team the Blues should handle easily, but they won't. Because why would they? Yeah.
Should.
But they won't.
Should. Yeah. Then they go and they pack their bags again and they go to Sin City. and they take on the Golden Knights. Buckle up, boys and girls. Buckle up, because
the leading team in the league points.
This will be very interesting. Very interesting. They right now are 11-2 with a plus 19 goal differential. It's wow. Wow. Now, as a complete aside, did you see that hit on Pietrangelo?
I didn't see it, no, but I did see
You
there
need to
was
go.
suspensions.
There was a 2-game suspension. You need to go and watch this hit, because this is unacceptable. And I'm shocked he only got 2 games. And for fans who are listening who have yet to see this hit, go and take a look at the hit, because boy, it looked dangerous. Just clear, checked him from behind, and his head went square into the boards right in front of the Vegas bench. And I would not have been shocked to see Pietrangelo come off the ice in a stretcher. It looked that ugly.
Yeah, that's a
So,
bad one. I just watched it. That's a bad one. Yeah, I mean, Trangelo jumped him right away, and Howden was there too. But yeah, that's a bad hit, and
yeah.
definite suspension worthy. And I'm glad that the Dops got it done, but could have been more. But I think that's the case with almost everything.
Yeah. But so the Blues are going to have some their hands full. Jack Eichel is playing like the guy that they thought that they're going to get, 14 points in 13 games. But then you have this just wicked balance. Marchessault, Smith, Stevenson, Stone, Carlson, and Pietrangelo all have 10 points. There's just balance in that Vegas squad right now.
16 different goal scorers as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just a really solid team. It really doesn't make any sense that they were as bad as they were last season, to be honest. But
no, but you look at how many injuries. I mean, this is truly a team that could have come out of this season and just said, guys, look at the number of injuries that we had, like the long-term injuries that we had. We had a guy in Jack Eichel come back after having, this massive, massive surgery. Whatever that he gave us was just going to be gravy. We shouldn't have expected a lot here from him. Now, and Eichel, I know, was one of like his biggest critics, his own critics. Marchessault's playing well. Stone's playing well.
Their goaltending is great.
They're actually getting goaltending.
There's a reason I picked Logan Thompson to win the Calder, folks, and he's got a 934 and he's 6-2. So watch out. And their defense is good too in front of them, because Aiden Hill's having a great season as well. But either way, with all that being said, the Blues are going 3-1 this week. You can mark it down.
Boom.
And they are going to lose. They're going to lose to Vegas, but they're going to have a 3-game winning streak before that. We're going to be like, okay, maybe they're back. Maybe they're back, because it's always a real chore to go into Vegas and win. The Blues did it last season. I remember an early season game at Vegas on TNT, a big win. I think it was an overtime win because they blew a lead, because why wouldn't they? But Vegas transition style, good defense, a lot of chemistry, a lot of that core still being intact there. Plus the fact that Eichel is a superstar again. It's going to be a Vegas. This is by far their hardest game this week is Vegas. Yeah. So if they can get 3 in a row before that, I'd feel much better. But I'll mark it down. Don't care. Probably going to be wrong. They're going 3-1 this week.
I want them to be able to split the week.
I would be okay with a split.
I like them to be able to split the week. And I think the 2 games that they're going to lose are the 2 games that you would expect. It's going to be a sandwich effect. It's going to be a sandwich week. Loss, win, win, loss.
I can see that as well. I think most logic would back that up, given the fact that San Jose and Philly are not juggernaut big time opponents.
Yep.
But what a terrible schedule to have when you're 3-6.
Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, they're gonna win some games, they're gonna lose some games, and if we can be able to split the week, I would be happy. If we go
But also,
less than 500,
if you're 5-8, you're still kind of stuck in that spot where you don't really want to be in the middle, because you don't want to end up with like the 12th pick and just be like, okay, what was the point of this?
Yeah.
You're either going to be really bad or you're going to be a playoff team. I feel like that should be the mentality, not from the team, but if you're a fan or somebody observing the team, you really don't want to be stuck in the middle. So I'd like to see them figure out what they're going to be within the next month. I think the schedule being what it is upcoming is going to show that, because after this week, you're playing Colorado, you're playing a Chicago team that's, the Blues own the Blackhawks currently. The Blues will beat them, but I'm just saying they've played pretty well. And then you also have the Capitals as well. But maybe a couple get-right games on the 19th and the 21st, back-to-back against the Anaheim Ducks in St. Louis. So, and then a very hard trip with Buffalo, Tampa, and Florida. So, yeah, the schedule is really hard moving forward, but it's also the NHL, and there's not very many cakewalk teams in the league right now. The Blues may be considered one of them with the way they're playing, but there's not very many of them. Like, I think it's San Jose could be considered one of those, even though they do score occasionally. Anaheim's been really bad. Columbus has been atrocious. So we'll see. We'll see. It's a hard week, though. Hard way to go in terms of your schedule. So who knows?
All right. Anything else you're able to do, or let's put a bow here on this and
I think we're good.
Tell the fans we're done talking.
Yep, I think that's the right move. All right, hopefully the Blues can figure it out this week. 4 big games, finally a week with a full slate. Last week was just 2 games, and then you had this many days off in between after another loss. Is really difficult, but we'll see. So check us out, Twitter at TBNPod. Make sure to follow that. You follow our personal Twitter accounts. Mine is at Ethan Carter SW. Mike's is
at M_Meyer3.
And we'll see you next time on the Blue Note Podcast. This has been episode number 34. The Blues better go 3-1 this week, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you for watching Believe. You can find more great content at Believe.com. That's BLEAV.com. Do you believe?